What's up, and welcome to another beautiful episode of Scene Selection. Okay, I know last episode I joked about how we talk about video games too much on the show, but can you really blame us? Games are awesome! They have stories that intrigue us, characters we grow to love, gameplay that immerses us in the world, and of course, the soundtrack which sets the atmosphere of it all. If you haven't guessed yet from the title, even though it specifically tells you, that's gonna be this episode's topic. The music in games that mean the most to us. Sometimes we'll just listen to them casually, sometimes we'll stick them in these videos, and sometimes we'll get super duper salty when we can't find them on Spotify. Like the No More Heroes soundtracks. Anyways, might as well get started kicking things off with mine, because I actually have quite a few. First up is Crash Twinsanity, one of my favorite games of all time, no matter how much of a broken mess it is. Now, while the game's quality may fluctuate from moment to moment, the soundtrack is actually consistently fantastic throughout the entire experience. And that's pretty surprising considering no instruments are used at all. That's right, it's a cappella. All mouth noises. Check it out. Pretty catchy, huh? Now we come to another massive pillar of my childhood, Ape Escape. Now when I was a lot younger, I couldn't quite comprehend the concept of existing. You know, understanding that I'm real and part of reality and everything. But even back then when I was like that, I still understood and recognized that Ape Escape's music is an absolute bop. It may be a bit repetitive in some areas, but there's no doubt that these upbeat dance tunes will get stuck in your head in a matter of seconds. Take a listen. Don't you try to hide it, I saw you tapping your feet. Now initially I was just gonna stick to talking about Twinsanity and Ape Escape, but with Kazuya being announced for Smash recently, you know I gotta talk about Tekken music too. Now since Kazuya's coming to Smash, you might be exposed to a ton of Tekken music anyways, but why don't I go ahead and show off some that might not make the cut but are still worth listening to. Enjoy! Believe it or not, that last overly dramatic sounding one was for a bowling minigame. Bowling! Okay, enough of me.
Oh boy, I've been waiting for the scene selection for a while. And in fact, I was the one who requested it. Who would have thought? I have played plenty of games with stellar soundtracks. And to do some honorable mentions, these are just some of them. Bloodborne, Cuphead, Elle Noir, Off, and even Deadly Rooms of Death, which I mentioned a couple scene selections ago. Now, Nier Automata has been pretty popular since its release, and honestly, it having a spectacular soundtrack is no secret to anybody at this point. Hell, it's so good it even made its director Yoko Taro jealous of the composer getting more credit than him.
はい。ニーヤオートマタは僕が書いたシナリオが全然評価されないのに、岡部さんの音楽ばっかりいっぱい褒められてすごく悔しいです。なので、もう二度と岡部さんにはアワードの賞をあげないでください。よろしくお願いします。
But why is it so good though? Why did I choose this one over other incredible music the game industry has to offer? Well, while the music is good, really good actually, it's not the only thing it has going for it. Something I appreciate a lot is when composers in video games develop new ways of incorporating the music and using it in different ways. Nier Automata stands out this way not only because it's good, but also because it works with the game in such a dynamic way that it boosts the immersion that much more. For instance, there are several tracks in this game that have different versions depending on the context, the quest you're currently doing, or which part of the map you're currently standing on. And each version either adds or subtracts instruments, plays them louder or quieter, or adds vocals to it. It's also incredibly creative. Have I mentioned that every single track in the game has vocals? Usually I would be against this, because lyrics distract me from the gameplay if I'm too focused on the music. Why MMV here, of course, but Nier does something really interesting to counteract this. All of the vocals are sung in made-up languages, each one specifically created for each song. Not only that, but the inflections and the accent on the lyrics help in reflecting some of the lore in the game, as if you were listening to a machine trying to replicate human speech, which ties pretty neatly into the themes of the game. But yeah, other than that, the music is just really fucking cool. Most of the tracks bring out this air of nostalgia that once again really help bring out the themes of the game, while some others are these epic orchestras for the more climactic moments. And the mix of all these elements end up creating an incredible atmosphere. These are just some of my favorite tracks in the game. Hopefully you're convinced. But regardless, you should play this game, like, right now. You already played it? Play it again. You haven't played it yet? Go pick it up right now. It's 100% worth it.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
Wow, okay, video game music, huh? I won't lie, if I hadn't had to consider the subject of my favorite game soundtracks for a class not too long ago, I would have really struggled to narrow down my options for this. Hell, even then I could still only narrow it down to 3, and that's excluding a lot of video game soundtracks that I thoroughly enjoy. But when it comes down to my current 3 favorites, I'll quickly break them down here so as to not drag on for too long. I could seriously gush about video game music for as long as you'd let me, but, well, I only have 5 minutes tops, so without any further ado, we start with the one you probably already guessed by the lead-up, the Persona series. I only got into Persona and SMT in general last year during the pandemic, and I'd actually already heard its soundtrack here and there in videos I'd watched. So when I finally sank my teeth into it, the music was one of the things that first grabbed me and pulled me in. And I was all for it, because the whole series has a ton of variety, energy, emotion, contextual meaning, and just incredible composition. Persona 5 is my favorite one overall, and if I had to pick a favorite for each of the 3 main Persona entries, it'd be Heartful Cry for 3, The Fog for 4, and, well, it was Colors Flying High for 5, but now that Strikers has been out for a while, it's a lot harder for me to pick. Second is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team. This was one of the first games I ever played back on my Game Boy Advance as a kid, and it's the first game that emotionally impacted me enough to make me cry by the end. And the soundtrack played no small part in that. Every track embodies the feeling of adventure, camaraderie, and a friendly atmosphere that's always ready to welcome you back for more dungeon crawling. The Switch remaster brought a lot of new life into the music that still sets it apart from the original sound, but across both versions, Parting Farewell is my favorite song for the pure emotional nostalgia the ending holds for me. Finally, there's Hollow Knight. Its soundtrack might not have the entertainment power of Persona or the nostalgic value of Red Rescue Team, but it's such a majestic and well-made ensemble of compositions that I can't help but be awed by it. Every track is perfectly created to suit the environment and/or enemy it's associated with instrumental themes and leitmotifs creating associations in the score that evolve with your perception of the world as you play the game. Crossroads exemplifies this idea to a T, but my personal favorite of the entire score is probably City of Tears or maybe Dung Defender. Honorable mentions go out to Sonic Colors and A Hat in Time for also having banger soundtracks that I would love to get into, but I don't want to take forever in this video because everyone else has to go as well, so bye!
One of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time has to go to Subnautica. If you haven't played Subnautica, you have to, drop everything after this video and go play Subnautica or watch my playthrough. It is one of the best games, in my opinion, of all time. It is adventurous, it captures the beauty of the sea so well. Everything about it is just amazing. However, the sound design in the game is extremely slept on as well. The cracks of your submarine, the wildlife, it's just all put together so well. And it's all made by using original sounds. I cannot explain how amazing the sound design in this game is in one video. However, a lot of the game's atmosphere is attributed to its amazing music. Some of it I want to freestyle to every time I'm playing it. I would rank it among the best soundtracks of all time. It's extremely replayable while also giving this amazing sense of adventure, and it can be so wondrous and just ridiculously vibrant at times, but also it can give you the sense of the depths that you're constantly wandering through or right above. It can be the most horrifying but also beautiful soundtrack in all of gaming. It can make you feel extremely isolated, but also can help with the feeling of this bright open world while also being cramped in every cave that you may explore. The more energetic tracks can make you feel really motivated to go out there and keep searching and keep hunting due to the story's very wide open feeling and very minimal sense of direction. This sense of exploring is constant throughout the entire game. Some specific tracks that I think about are some that have very clear hip-hop influences, with trap and hip-hop drums being used throughout that cut through this really ambient mix of synths and pianos, strings, but mainly a lot of organic synths that make the songs sound really airy and ambient, like I said a million times, and I'm probably gonna say more. Also, the use of high-pass filters to emulate that kind of oceanic sound throughout the songs really help to add with this sense of, you're in water, you gotta do underwater things are gonna sound underwater. Also, they don't distract from the actual gameplay elements and the sounds of the creatures you gotta hear a lot of the time. And it's crazy because a lot of the times the creatures will actually add to the soundtrack itself because they mesh just so well together. I just think it's crazy how a game that I never really thought of playing too much has become one of my favorite games of all time and includes one of my favorite adventurous soundtracks in any video game that I've ever played to date.
Capcom presents.
When that jingle plays, you know you're about to be taken for a ride. I wanted to cover a fighting game for this scene selection, and I considered a few options. Capcom vs SNK 2 has some really great songs, like the classic True Love Makin'. The latest Samurai Showdown has a ton of great character themes, like Galford's theme, and the King of Fighters series across the board has fun, frantic, and fast-paced music, like the forever catchy Stormy Saxophone. But come on, it's Marvel, baby. All 4 Marvel games have great music. Yep, 1, 2, 3, Ultimate. All 4. But when it comes to classic arcade music, nothing tops Marvel vs. Capcom 2, New Age of Heroes. MVC2 is widely considered to be one of the greatest fighting games of all time. Its large selection of characters and frantic gameplay are top-notch, no doubt. Amongst the hundreds of hours I've spent firing off Hyper Viper beams and calling in Captain Corridors, let alone the majority of the FGC, we've had some real bangers when it comes to tracks. I'd argue that Marvel 2 has the most iconic fighting game character select theme. It's repetitive, but you only spend so long listening to it between games. It's catchy and that's all it really needs to be. And that's just the half of it. There's so many other catchy earworms, probably the most popular being the Carnival song, which is just super jazzy. It's well worth going on this stage despite the freaky clown I hate with a burning passion. Other standouts for me are the River stage and the Clock Tower stage. Even the Game Continue song is a mix of ominous and soothing, making you just want to put in a few more quarters to make it to Abyss. I know it isn't the focus of this video, but the sound design of the game is honestly just so nostalgic and complements the music so well. Every hit, every announcer call, the way he says that you, after all your efforts, will be remembered in the pages of fighting history after beating Abyss. Something's also just really fun to me about Hulk talking like a normal person, Mega Man doing this weird taunt thing, and Magneto and Psylocke, whose attack calls are burnt into my brain at this point. Back to music. I remember the PS2 version, which I grew up on when not in the arcade, has a good menu theme. Not something you hear much when playing, but I've sure taken it to memory. The training mode song is also catchy, with this nice guitar riff. Keep the rhythm up! Actually, this song may as well be burnt into my head as well. In order to unlock characters, you'd get points based on playtime, and I used to just keep my guy in training mode and let it run, and then come back to it from school and have a ton of points. Probably not the smartest idea, but I don't think anyone on the team expected much more from me. All in all, I love Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in all its glory. So many great songs that can tie to even greater memories. I won't leave the other games out though. Specifically, Marvel 3's themes for Super Skrull, Chun-Li, and Wolverine are all bangers. And I could keep going, but maybe another time. Don't you want a rematch?
Video game soundtracks. Well, I really like the music of earlier Marvel vs. Capcom games on the CPS2 hardware, like Marvel Superheroes, X-Men Children of the Atom, Marvel vs. Capcom 1, the 2 vs. Street Fighter ones, but Brandon already talked about Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Ah, rats. DuckTales is also a great choice, not just because I'm a duck, but also because it really does have a lot of nice songs, in both the remastered and original NES versions. But today, I had decided to talk about another basketball game. Yes, indeed. Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden is a fan-made game about a dystopian future where basketball is banned, after Charles Barkley accidentally unleashed a massive dunk that destroyed an entire stadium. From there it becomes a big parody JRPG, and also Space Jam is canon to it. So this is the real Space Jam 2 if you ask me. Either that or Super Eye Patch Wolf's version. It's pretty obviously a ridiculous premise, and the sprite assets are often crude, reused, or both, and some aspects haven't aged the best, but for what it is, it's pulled off really well. The humor comes not from pointing out the silly premise, but just letting it happen, with some commentary woven in about video games. Everything from the cliches of video games to the fandoms, as well as putting in various basketball players and other cultural references in very strange ways. The gameplay system is neat for not being the regular JRPG system, but more like Paper Mario or Mario & Luigi and having you actually input button presses to control your moves in battle. And one aspect that really stands out is the soundtrack. I mean, that's the title of this video, isn't it? There are a few selections that are reused songs, like a remix of the Space Jam theme, the Harlem Globetrotters theme at one point, and the song Eternity from the game Blue Dragon, surprisingly. Jesus Christ, the guy from Deep Purple sang this. But it also has a good amount of original music as well, ranging from various battle themes, locations like the sewer areas, the catacombs, the old Spalding factory, and various specific dramatic scenes. Many of these tracks, if you look in the game's files, have names like Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Islam is the Party Religion, and Naked Grandpa Parade. I didn't expect anything less from them. But really, a lot of this stuff sounds just as good as some professional game soundtracks, if not better sometimes. Of all the aspects that had to go the hardest, besides the blatant absurdity of it all, and the surprisingly well-crafted mechanics, the music is a big standout. I think if you want something quick, kinda funny, and actually pretty fun, as far as JRPG-styled games go, it's free and you can just download it onto your computer. It's a shame what happened to the sequel though. Dang.